In Focus is powered in part by Go Chevrolet at I-25 and the Boulder Turnpike. Your source for new or used cars and trucks, and reliable service for most makes and models. Just visit goautochevrolet.com.
Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Tonight we have part 2 of our visit with the Book of Mormon First National Tour launching at the Ellie Coggins. Later we'll visit with more of the cast and the co-director choreographer. But we begin with a co-creator also known for Ave Q, Robert Lopez. Welcome to Colorado.
Thank you.
What does it feel like to come here on the occasion of the launch of the Book of Mormon?
I wasn't quite sure what to expect because it's, I've heard about the Denver Center a lot, and certainly from Matt and Trey, and from all the preparation that we've done for this. So I didn't know what to think, and it's so great. It's so big. I was saying I wish we had a facility like this in New York somewhere that we could actually use. I guess
Beside Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center's kind of nice, but I'll never get there.
And it's a little too big for the way we use this facility. When you were working on this show, I know you started with Hello as the first song.
Uh-huh.
When did you feel like you had more than just a small idea? What song made you realize this could be a real full-on show?
It wasn't the songs. It was, although I guess one of the songs ties into what I'm thinking of. It was when we put the Mormons together with the Africans, that idea, having the idea of them going to Africa and the conflict that brought up, not just conflict between people, but the conflict of kids who were really naively believing in their religion, going to one of the worst humanitarian crises on earth, the kind of place that you read about in the newspaper and question your own faith. Mm-hmm. And having them just plunk right down in the middle of that, and what does that do to someone? And knowing that since it's a musical, we're going to find a way to make a happy ending somehow.
And a musical comedy at that.
Exactly. Well,
it's not Les Mis.
It's funny, I would pitch this idea to people while we were working on it, and they'd be like, oh, it's a comedy? Saying it's funny somehow? Interesting.
The work that most of our viewers will know that you have done is Ave Q.
Uh-huh.
Sort of going off into the world, making your own fish out of water, figuring out who you are.
Coming of age story.
Yeah. So is this.
Uh-huh.
Is that something that you find easy to find new ways to tell that story, or was it challenged to make it different?
It's never easy to create original story because just to make these stories make sense is impossible. You get a good idea and you're so excited to do it, and then you kind of write a treatment, and then you realize, oh, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't, nothing makes sense, and you spend years and years trying to make it make sense and give it an emotional impact. And I think, the coming of age story is a good one for musicals, and it's a good thing to hang a love story from. It's a good thing to hang whatever kind of story this Book of Mormon is from.
I think a love story fits in some ways.
It's a bromance, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
We see them break up.
Exactly.
Get back together.
Right.
Hopefully, by the end.
Yep.
Was that intentional, or did that just fall into place as you were working on the story?
I think that came out organically from the idea of these missionaries go out in pairs, and to create sort of an odd couple, and that it just made sense to have them break up and get back together. And as the characters evolved, it became one of the biggest parts of the comedy too, that they were so different from each other, and to sort of mine all that juice.
And it turns out that they kind of need each other to finish growing.
Exactly, and that's that was the big challenge. We always knew Elder Cunningham's story because we knew we were kind of transplanting the Joseph Smith story to the modern day, and Cunningham basically is Joseph Smith. Mm-hmm. But Elder Price, we didn't really know who he was, and it was so funny that by the end of the process, we were sort of slapping ourselves in the forehead, saying, he's Brigham Young, that's who he is. He's the one that carries the torch forward.
One of the songs that sticks out to me, one of my favorites, of course, is I Believe. It just sounds like that uplifting, spiritual
Right.
kind of song, and yet you're layering it with this wonderful tongue-in-cheek humor.
Not to mention a little Sound of Music.
A little Sound of Music, that's right. How did that work out for you? How did that song grow?
It began with the producer telling us, look, we need a song for Elder Price in Act 2. He doesn't have anything that tells us what he wants and
We need
where
the
he's
11
getting
o'clock
to.
number,
We
the
need
single.
that big number. We need it. We need it. And because Elder Price was a mess in this whole, during the development process. And so we thought, Elder Price is beaten. He doesn't need a song there. And we were kind of forced to write it. And we were sitting there thinking, well, he's going to go to the warlord. Maybe he's sort of psyching himself up. And I said, well, what about that song, I Have Confidence in Me from Sound of Music? So Trey hadn't seen it. We put it on YouTube, and he was like, that's it. That's the song. We're just going to do that. Got the lyrics, and we kind of changed them around, changed the music. And that became the verse to that song. And the chorus is the uplifting anthem part that, which I love because there's no jokes in it. It's just Mormon beliefs, and they kind of get it. They're always in threes, and it's sort of like one kind of belief that you would go along with, another belief that you'd go along with, and then like the specifically Mormon belief is
The one that's very specific.
Yes, and it gets laughs. I mean, at once you want him to succeed, you believe in his belief, and on the other hand, you're kind of laughing at it, and you're realizing some stuff about religion as all of these factors are playing at once.
It's funny you said that song grew out of problem solving that was presented to you as the creative team. And I think it was when you were talking about first working at the BMI workshop, you kind of felt you sort of knew songwriting.
Right.
And so tell me about how that work there and those realizations sort of prepared you for this.
Well, I think any one person writing a musical is like a Mormon arriving in Uganda. There's just so many problems. You can't begin to contemplate the number of details that have to add up to one big thing, and the number of variables that you control. That it's like a stereo that comes with really bad instructions, and so I constantly find myself up against not knowing how to do my job. So you definitely feel that fish out of water feeling a lot. And
when you were first at BMI workshop, did you kind of feel like you kind of knew?
I think if you didn't have the illusion that you knew what you were doing, you'd never try anything. If you didn't have a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of just feeling like you can conquer the world, you'd never charge in. And even now, I still feel like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and then I get into this idea. You feel like, oh, how did I end up in Africa?
Well, I think you know what you're doing, and I think thousands of other theater goers obviously think you know what you're doing. Another song that really stuck out to me that shows you know what you're doing is the big tap dance number. It's almost like your version of "Tap Your Troubles Away" from Mac and Mabel. You know,
Right.
you know this piece?
Yes.
Tell me about that
Shaking
song.
the blues away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song.
Turn It Off.
Turn it off like a light switch. Yeah, it's. We always knew that we wanted to show because one of the big things about Mormonism is their attitude towards being gay or sexual orientation, all that stuff, and and their specific form of dealing with that, which is pretty much. Actually, I think our song is a little gentle to them. They say, a Mormon told me this. She said, actually, your song is a little bit gentle. They don't say, turn it off. They say, pray and really, really pray for it to go away. And if it doesn't go away, you're not praying right and you're not a good enough Mormon. So, it's a good situation. It's funny. It's a good idea for a song like that. And Trey came up with this idea really early. We didn't even know who the character was that was singing it. At first, I think we might have thought, well, maybe one of the Africans in the village comes to them with this problem, and this is their response. But once we found Rory, the guy who plays him in New York, we came up with the idea for this missionary who's very much in the closet and has this way of dealing with it. And
you're able to expand that so that you're seeing other elders deal with a couple of other problems that might be a little easier to turn it off first. And then it's a big tap number. Well, so one of the things that makes Mormons so right for
for musicalization is this sort of optimism and chipperness and feeling like, oh, if you got a problem, just don't have a problem. The dark edge of that is that we all have problems and life is really hard, and sometimes turning it off really isn't the best option. And it is a little bit like a tap dance, like trying to persuade yourself that the black is white. And I love the moment when the lights go out in the theater. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but that's the way a big tap break in the dark. Can't even see them dancing. I just thought it was a perfect metaphor for the song.
What would you say to other people who are in college? They're studying theater, or they would just love to work in theater, writing, composing. What's the best advice that you can give them after such two big successes?
Well, when I was growing up, you had to kind of get to New York. I grew up in New York, and that was sort of my. I just had to go back home after college, just move back in with my parents, basically. So just move back in with your parents.
Affordable, yes.
Move back in with your parents, and what I did was I joined this workshop called the BMI Workshop. I had done a lot of theater in school, and I think that's where people get the bug. People are in shows, and teachers are usually great resources to help you kind of realize your early dreams and put on a show in school. I did this all the time. I had a great teacher that allowed me to do a musical every semester. It was amazing. I had written a lot. I completely burned out by the time I graduated, to the point where I had to completely change what I was doing. But I think school is the place to start playing, and then get to New York somehow, because that's where all the other people who are writing it go. What I did was I joined this BMI workshop where I learned the craft, and I had a built-in audience of my class. I was able to bring songs, and it was great. And I met my collaborator from Ave Q there, and I met my wife there.
Well, that's a good enough recommendation in and of itself.
It was one-stop shopping.
Well, congratulations on not just the success of the Book of Mormon, but this big launch of this national tour. Sold out in 5 hours.
That's amazing.
And I really appreciate you making time to talk to me about it today. I can't wait for all my friends and neighbors to come and see it.
Yay. Thank you.
Next, we meet the Tony Award-winning co-director and choreographer of Book of Mormon, Casey Nicholaw. Before you began this project, you were a performer. You were on Broadway. You were in Seussical. If I remember the story correctly, you were sitting in your little yarn costume.
Oh my God, yes. I was in a purple yarn suit and in a cage, and I thought, I have to do something else with my life right now. Not that I didn't like Seussical. It was a good show. It was beautiful music, but I just
wanted more.
I needed something more. And so I really strongly pursued trying to get into choreography.
And how you did that, I think, will be very instructive to a lot of the viewers who are in the same position, who are, whether it's theater or not, wanting to try something else. You took big risks to do that.
Oh, I did. I basically took my life savings at that point, everything I had, to put on a presentation of my own. And I asked, basically, how it started was I said, I just need to be creative. I need to do something else. So I rented studio space Wednesdays and Saturdays between shows. And
this is in New York.
In New York.
So that's a lot of money.
It is. And I said, I'm just going to be creative here. And, the first few weeks, I just sort of ate dinner, looked around. I thought, what am I doing? And then it just started getting momentum in my own head. I said, great. So I ended up choreographing 3 numbers. I got 25 dancer friends. They all said, great, we'll do this for free. I got a friend to arrange it. And I did a rented studio space, got the insurance, did all that kind of stuff, and I did a presentation of 3 numbers for every director, writer, performer, whatever that I'd ever worked with, and producers, and started getting work right from that. And then I did another...
so they could see you in a new light.
Yeah. And at that point, I'd done 7 original Broadway musicals, so I already had a reputation. People knew I was a good worker. People knew I was fun and all that kind of thing. And
you had some sense of how it gets put together.
Yeah, well, I had good experience to be able to watch it too, as opposed to just like reading magazines and stuff. I just really took it all in because I was so excited my whole life. All I ever wanted to do was be in theater. So to be able to be on Broadway and see all of that and see what it was like to put it together was fantastic. And I always, I would look at it with a sort of a director's eye, because I sort of choreographed non-equity and stuff, before I became a performer on Broadway. And I would sort of look at it and go, okay, I love that, and I would do this differently, and just sort of take it all in. And then before you know it, I was doing what I'm doing now.
What was the first big show you got to do?
Well, the first Broadway show I choreographed was Spamalot with Mike Nichols as director.
That was after you had already done Thoroughly Modern Millie, correct?
Yeah, Thoroughly Modern Millie was my last show as a performer.
And then you did.
And then I started choreographing. I did a show at Radio City with the Rockettes. I did a couple shows at Encores in New York, and then I got Spamalot.
That's a nice little string you put together there.
It was very nice. yeah. And all of a sudden I was on a roll. Oh, it's a new blood. Let's do it.
Did you realize what was happening to you as it was happening?
No. I mean, I knew I was excited about it, but it's a strange thing. For some reason, that stuff doesn't really get in me too much, because for me it's really just it's about the work and what I'm doing and my love for working like that. So it takes me a while to really have it, get inside me in that way.
So it hasn't gotten inside you that not only has Book of Mormon become the hottest ticket on Broadway, but sold out in 5 hours in its first national
That's
tour.
crazy. No, things like that make me go, whoa. But even so, I kind of sit back and go, that's an interesting statistic, but I wasn't part of it. You know what I mean? It's like, for some reason, it's a strange thing. You have moments you go like, wow, look what we're doing, or look how cool this is, but it doesn't happen all the time because it's mostly about the work.
Right. Now tell me about choreographing this crazy idea, this trip of Mormons to Africa.
It was really crazy to start with because I was brought on the production late, basically.
They had done many workshops.
They had done other workshops, and I wasn't a part of it yet. So basically, I found out I had the job like 3 weeks before the rehearsal started for a 6-week workshop.
Oh my.
And I thought, oh my is right, because I was also doing a show in San Diego at the time. So I had the dance arranger come to San Diego, and we did all of our pre-production and everything in the mornings, and then we teched the other show and did previews of the other show in the afternoon and evening. So it was a little schizo, but I had Jen Warner and John McInnes, who were my associates. They happened to be there for that show, so I said, you want to be my associates on the next one? And they're upstairs now. But it was a lot, but it was a little nerve-wracking because I had great ideas for it. I was really excited about them. But, you're showing people, I'm showing my work to people that have been doing it for 5 years and working on it for 5 years. So every time I do a new number, I would just kind of like do it and look over my shoulder and be, Howard, what are they going to think of it? But it just that quickly went away because they loved it. And hearing Trey laugh so hard at it really made me happy because he and I, it's really great.
What was the number where you finally realized that this was going to work for you, that your take on this material was going to work?
Well, what's interesting is the first number that I choreographed was 2x2, and that one came so quickly to me that one I didn't even have to be in a room with my associates. I was just doing it in my living room. I thought, well, I get that because as a kid I always wanted to be in theme park, and I was like crushed when I didn't get cast for Knott's Berry Farm, and I really loved that. And so it was just that cheesy theme park, up with people, young Americans kind of choreography, which was a blast. And once I did that, everyone was laughing, and it actually helped us find the vocabulary of the show. Latter Day, the last number in the show, ended up using that vocabulary as well. And then All American, we had a song before that called Bible as a Trilogy, which was sort of a hoedown feel that wasn't right. And then they said, well, why don't we make it sort of more Osmond-ish and more variety show-ish? And so we relied back on that kind of choreography again. So that choreography helped inform the show in ways that I wouldn't have thought. And then, it's funny, Spooky Mormon Hell Dream was another one that when we did the dance arrangement, everyone thought, this is so long. This is so long, Casey. We're not going to be able to do this number for that long. And I don't think they realized what was in my head because I had so much stuff I had to shove in there. And then when we did it, everyone thought, whoa, okay, we get it now. So there were a lot of them that felt like they informed moments, and they informed the structure of the show. I'm Africa is another one that when we first did it, it was as funny as it is now, but it wasn't. It was sort of almost a throwaway number. It wasn't. It didn't have a lot of structure and build to it. And I kept saying we are short a big number in Act 2. Besides Spooky Mormon Hell Dream, when it actually was the first number of the show to begin with, in Act 2 to begin with. But then we realized we needed a couple bigger numbers in the middle, so we moved that to the second number, in Act 2, and then we made I Am Africa bigger, so it felt like another big number.
The dancing is actually so clever, and you're able to follow along this path that we're going. What was your overarching idea, or did you have a plan to do that?
No, I wanted the numbers to be as funny as the script and as smart as the script, and the staging of the numbers, because the numbers themselves are, but I just think every good number needs a beginning, middle, and end, and it was really about making sure the numbers weren't just a little ditty we were doing, that it was really helping the story move along, and it was character driven and funny and all of that.
I really love the turn it off as almost like Book of Mormon's version of Tap Your Troubles Away.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it already a tap number before you started, or did you turn it into
no,
a tap?
actually, Trey said, I always picture this as a tap number. And I went, what? Because, and I was excited, but I just thought the number was so strong that it didn't need tap in it. Because it's got such it's so funny and it's so clever and the lyrics are so good that I thought, wow, isn't that going to muddy it up? But then we did dance arrangements to it, and then came up with some of the other stuff in it, and some, we were sitting on the floor saying, wouldn't it be funny if? And I don't want to give it away.
Right.
No. The middle of the dance sequence is one of my favorite things in the show.
I have to agree. It's one of my favorites.
You go, what? And I love moments like that when we're just sitting in a dance studio saying, wouldn't it be funny if? And then there it is on stage.
Well, I know previews are closing in on you really quickly, and you still have lots of work to do. And I really appreciate you taking time to talk
absolutely.
to me today.
I'm thrilled.
It was delightful to meet you.
You too.
We end our visit by meeting more of the cast. We begin with the actor who was in the original Broadway cast as the standby for Elder Cunningham, the role he's creating on tour, Jared Gertner. What was the biggest surprise finding your character anew with this new company?
I think it's been about my relationship with Gavin, with Elder Price. He plays it really differently than it was played on Broadway. He has sort of his own spin on it, and so I have to work a little harder to get through to him sometimes. Not Gavin. I have to work a little harder to get through to Elder Price. Mm-hmm. And so the sort of different colors maybe that brings out in me makes me is sort of fun. Yeah.
A lot of the people who are so devoted to musical theater and this show are younger people. Some may not have much of a musical theater background. So when they come and see you, you're going to be imprinting on them what musical theater can and should be.
And I think that this is a great show to do that, because despite what people might think, this is a very traditional musical in the style of Oklahoma, in the style of Annie, and in the style of all of these shows where...
Right down to the way the set works.
Right, The King and I mean, the way the show flows, the structure of it, the choreography, the music, it's very traditional. And so they're getting this sort of fun, slightly controversial, slightly offensive material, but told to them through the spectrum of musical theater the way we all know and love it. So I think that's really exciting. And I think that we do have a lot of young people and a lot of maybe crossover fans from South Park who say, I want to go see this show because it's South Park guys. And so they're discovering musical theater for the first time, and that's great. But I also think we have a great audience of people who already love musical theater, older audiences and families, and
not too young.
Not too young, but if they're old enough to watch South Park, they're certainly old enough to see this.
That's right.
And so that was what surprised me when I came in. I thought, well, I know we'll appeal to one demographic and really, really well. But what I love is the audiences that we saw in New York who were, the Wednesday matinee crowd, and they'd come in and love it, and they would laugh, and they'd be moved by it, and that was sort of the surprise in the whole thing.
Now, final thoughts from cast members Kevin Mambo, Samantha Marie Ware, and Gray Henson.
It is, and what I really have come to appreciate about this show in particular, yes, there's a lot of comedy that's outrageous, and yes, the musical theater form is oftentimes turned on its ear, but it doesn't make it any less difficult. It really requires excellence and consistency from everyone all the time. And underneath all of that is a very human, tender story, which is what propels these stories, which is what propels the musical most of the time. So it's been really amazing to watch all of these layers peeled back and to see how it works and then put them all back on.
The show is such a test to see how open-minded and open-hearted you can be.
I love that you added open-hearted
Yeah.
and not just open-minded.
Yeah.
I mean, obvious reasons. There's,
Yeah.
the kind of humor that they're known
Yeah.
for, but open-hearted, that's important.
Definitely.
Why do you say that?
There are some things that people may be offended by. I mean, we do deal a lot with, Jesus and God and the the Mormons and their religion, but nothing we say is ever like a direct hit or towards the religion in any way. Anything we say or do is very true. We just kind of step over the line just a little bit, but it's nothing to offend. It's all a part of the story.
Yeah.
Tell us about your character.
Well, Elder McKinley is, he's the district leader in Uganda when the two missionaries, Price and Cunningham, go to Uganda. And
He's been there for a while.
he's been there for a while. He's still young, but he's in charge there. And, my song, Turn It Off, that I sing with...
Big tap number.
It is a big tap number. I don't want to give anything away. I want people to come in and see it, but it's fun. It's really, really fun to do, and McKinley has a few secrets up his sleeve, but it's such a joy to be able to sing and dance and tap every night on a big stage like the Ave Q. It's huge.
And you're going to get to it all. You can still get seats to this sold-out run. Visit denvercenter.org for the ticket lottery information. While we're gearing up for Season 5, we have more this summer. A visit with the Equinox Theater Company's production of Assassins, and a special visit with Colorado's own Pam Grier at the Denver Film Center.
That's all for this edition. Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. With all that Colorado has to offer, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.